Alright, pinch the shoulder blades back really tightly. Make sure my grip is really good so I get my thumb all the way around. As I pinch my shoulder blades together, I'm not just squeezing the bar, but I'm also trying to pull the bar apart and bend it. So I'm actually trying to pull it laterally. And as I do that, I tighten up more and pull away from my midline. So right when I start to lose my balance, I remember, oh crap, I need to look up or look straight ahead. And I completely forgot. And if you notice here, I start to look ahead at my garage. And I'm like, holy crap, this really does make a difference when I look straight. And I don't know why. I just did that now, but it worked. And that's 20 reps. Okay, so some major breakthroughs. Call it major breakthroughs, call it motivation, lack of motivation, lots of motivation. At the end of this video, I have something very special to share with you, and you're going to really love it because if you are a fan of the CrossFit Games, you're definitely going to love the end. But anyways, I've made the video at this angle for numerous reasons, and again, you'll find that out at the end. What I did want to talk about, stuff that I'm learning about the overhead squat, is a few things. If you watch my previous videos, I've had a few videos where I had some breakthroughs, and if there's one breakthrough that I got today, or maybe got reinforced, is the thickness of the bar. That really makes a difference. I have two different bars here. They're not by any means like any high quality bars. They're pretty much cheap barbells, not for Olympic lifting or anything like that, just straight regular Olympic weightlifting bars. And if you notice in one of my videos where I do a PR of 65 pounds, I actually use a very high quality Rogue bar, $300 barbell. Now, these days it's kind of standard if you're into any weightlifting, but for me to spend $300 on a barbell, you know, I have to be doing more than just squats and deadlifts. So one thing for sure, the thickness of the bar makes the biggest difference with my position, because I'm able to get my thumb around there. I get some wrist issues when I have my hand above my head because I can't get quite as much torque on this right side. So a lot of the times I'm having to default to using the wrist more than whatever I can't do at the shoulder. I'm having to do more at the wrist. Another thing to consider is my setup. Looking up makes a big difference. I'm so stuck with trying to keep my head in neutral and look straight ahead, or basically let my body follow my squat because I lean so far forward to keep my head in neutral. If I put my head up, it really does make a difference on kind of the tightness of how tight I can keep my back. Now, whether or not that's good or not, I'm not 100% sure, but one thing I do know for sure, learning from Kelly Starrett videos, is that keeping this good external rotation is super important. The shrug is bad. Even though some people can find a stable position here in the shrug, it's not the ideal position. It's not ideal. You want to keep an externally rotated position as much as possible. That way you create torque. Another thing that I said in a previous video as well is essentially setting myself up so that when I lift up above my head, I already have some tightness in the back. So when it's behind my back, I squeeze tight, okay? And then as I lift up, I keep squeezing tight while bending the bar, while pulling it apart, and then pushing up. That's like the biggest key. It almost doesn't matter how wide my arms are, because one of the compensation patterns I do make is wanting to go extra wide so that way I don't have to so that way I can compensate for some of my flexibility issues. But if I stay tight, pinch the shoulder blades back, squeeze the bar tight, pinch, and then as I push up, I pull the bar apart, bend it, pull, bend, up. I get a good solid externally rotated position here at the arm. One of the other things I do want to show you is a stretch, and that is kind of a chest stretch, but not just any chest stretch. It's about getting the shoulder in a good position, getting that external rotation, and then getting the band to stretch so I can get more of my bicep, more of my chest, and really get a good stretch in that bicep and chest. So I'm not just stretching, I'm actually widening up in the shoulder, pinching back my shoulder blade, and then pulling apart. So that way I'm trying to mobilize the position of emphasis that Kelly Starrett says a lot on the mobility one. Some other mobilizations I did before I actually did the overhead squats is I started off by rolling my upper back and just trying to open up my thoracic spine, using the barbell to pin my hands down as I lowered my hips to really open up my upper back so that I can get better thoracic extension when I go into the overhead squat. It's a very painful stretch. If anything, sometimes these kind of stretches don't even feel like stretches. They just feel like a lot of pain. So if you've never done these before, you're not sure if you're doing it right if you do it for the first time. This one is the regular that Starrett talks about, the overhead with external rotation emphasis, just stretching with the band, and just really trying to open up that external rotation position. The one thing I'm learning about this exercise, the overhead squat, is being able to get my shoulders back in the correct position. It's almost like the humerus has to get to a certain point underneath the scapula to create really good torque. It's kind of hard to explain, it's more of a feel, and sometimes I can compensate with strength. That's what I talk about, pulling the bar apart from the midline and like trying to not just bend the bar but tear it apart, and that kind of helps compensate to counteract some of my flexibility problems. Just kind of pull the bar apart while gripping it and bending it at the same time.
3-rep overhead squat max, and it's Rich Froning at 255. And that may as well be an empty barbell.
You know, that's the problem. With the guys that can move this weight easily, you don't want to get ahead of yourself. You have to get, well, then the impressive thing right there is he just pressed that weight up. That's what we call a push press. Usually everyone's going to dip down underneath it. That was all shoulders right there.
Rich Froning on the left at 265. It's no problem for him.
You know, a lot of midline. It's heavy midline.
Now it's Froning at 275. Dan Bailey next to him looks like he's still on 265.
Can't keep your eye off of anybody. But look at Rich Froning. He just sits at the bottom. That's how stable he is. Look at that. I'll just hang out down here, make sure I'm loaded up, then I'll come up when I'm ready.
A bit, but was able to stabilize, and that will count. Now it's Froning at 295. So far, Gerald Sasser, the only man to do 3 reps at 295, and I'm guessing that's going to change right here. The event record, Matthew Frazier, 2 good reps at 315 pounds. And Rich Froning, again, you cannot tell the difference between this and his opening lift at 255.
You're right. There's absolutely no difference. I mean, there's no bobbling at all.
So he and Froning have tied Gerald Sasser for the best score of the day, and it looks like Rich Froning about ready to beat that with 2 minutes to go here in the 4th and final heat of event 2, the second of 7 total events here in the Central East Regional Competition.
We were not lying when we said heavy hitters in this heat. The numbers that are going up across the board, the number of people that are doing these numbers is insane compared to all the other regions.
One more for Froning at 3:0 for Rich Froning, and now Froning at 3:15. The event record, 3:15 by 2, and we're looking at that possibly getting beaten right now by the 2-time defending CrossFit Games champion.
Look at that, no hesitation at all. He jumps up and he's instantly solid.
He'll get